was 16, I was playing off 4 and just off scratch when I turned pro.
That's great. And
So
go ahead.
No, you carry on.
So that you so at that point you decided to turn pro. What led you to pursue your in your case? I don't know how it worked. Here in the U.S., I think you can pursue the teaching avenue, teaching management avenue via the PGA of America. I think the other course is to become a tour player. Did you have to confront those two decisions, or were you at that level when you were pro?
No, I really wasn't at the level to consider going playing full time for a living. I mean, to be honest with you, if you're going to go playing full time for a living over here, you've got to be looking at playing off probably about +3, +4 these days, handicap wise. I go down to scratch. In all honesty, I was probably not good enough back then. I swung it worse than awful, which has changed a lot. But there wasn't really that much instruction about back then. It seems that we lagged behind you guys a lot in terms of the availability of the game at a young age years ago, and also the availability to get good instruction. There really wasn't any good instruction about when I was a kid. So my dad taught me how to play, learned a lot off feel. I think going back now, I may have perhaps tried pursuing the playing career for a little bit. But I actually lost the will for playing the game for a little bit once I turned pro, because I had all these exams to do. I had like 6 subjects to do. I had so much coursework and work to do that I decided that I was going to start doing some athletics. My mate managed to persuade me to go and do a half marathon. So I went and did that. And after not very much training, I managed to trot it around in an hour and 16 minutes. And he said that after limited training, I should pursue it for a little bit. I ended up then running at quite a good standard. I was running for north of England. I ran a good club called Sale Harriers. At that time, I was probably more like full-time athlete, full-time golf student, but not really playing the game very much, unfortunately. And then my dad gave me a bit of a talking to after passing my exams. He kind of sat me down and said, "Where do you think this athletic career is going to take you? It's not really going to be very good for you. Why don't you actually concentrate on what you're good at?" At which point he asked me where I stood in the UK in some times I'd done, which I quite proudly stood up, and relayed all these times to him. At which point he said, "Oh, that's very good, son." He said, "But, you hope you do realise that, there's probably over 100 Kenyans that have got much faster times than you. Half of them don't own a pair of trainers. So what I do is concentrate on the thing that you're actually good at." And it was a bit of a wake-up call from my dad, and that's when I started to play the game a bit more again, playing in a few tournaments, started playing pro-ams and what have you, and then started to find my feet in what I wanted to do in the game.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So you finished your apprenticeship and the collegiate, the academic portion of your training as a PGA, as a golf professional, and what happened next?
I managed to get myself a club professional position, which I was at the time one of the youngest guys ever to get a club professional position at the age of 24. And I got myself an indoor teaching facility built at the club. And at that time, I was doing quite well with the retail. We managed to really increase the turnover in the shop. But it was then that I started to do quite a lot of teaching. I started to teach quite a lot of the good players started to come to see me. I had a few professionals that I taught, and it was back then that I started to go onto different websites, and I was going on Bomb Squad Golf back in the day, and then I was reading on different forums there. I was trying to increase my knowledge as well as reading books. I was trying to get it from every different source I possibly could, and it was actually on Bomb Squad Golf that I bumped into Jeff Jones, aka Slice Fixer, and it was there. I saw him. I read a few posts of his. Thought, oh, right, a few of these bits he's talking about rotation swing, big muscle, back then, didn't really have much about talking about releasing it left and swinging left, but a lot of things about the ideas of the swing that I was already teaching. And so I sent him a few PMs, and we kind of just built up a friendship from there. During this time, I'd started concentrating a lot more on my coaching, and was doing much less involvement, if you like, in the actual retail side of things. Well, that was doing quite well. And it just wasn't really where my passion lay. Then my hand was forced to actually give up the shop due to it getting broken into. And the golf club where I was at the time, they insured my shop as part of my contract, but they cancelled the shop insurance without telling me because they were in a bit of financial difficulty. And it left me with £16,500 worth of stock gone that I still had to pay for a lot of it. So my contract became up for renewal. I decided not to renew it, and I ended up going teaching full time where I'm currently based here in Altrincham. And I just concentrated all of my efforts solely into my coaching.
That's great. You find a passion and you pursue it. And sometimes it takes
absolutely
circumstances to force your hand.
Yes.
And, Jeff Jones, Slice Fixer, is actually perhaps the ideal person to be interacting with, because beyond the golf swing, Jeff has gone through quite a bit of adversity. If you really get to know Jeff,
yes, he has.
You talk to Jeff, and, between loss of people in his life and his own, I'm going through some personal health issues, and it just so happens that I talked to Jeff, and he was able to share some stuff with me that gave me some strength and some hope, and along those lines.
Yes.
When you always, people come in and out of your life for a reason, and things happen for a reason. And hopefully it always comes out for the better.
Absolutely.
So you pursued, now
I'm a firm believer in that.
Now it's a full-time coaching career. Do you have any good players you'd say that potentially could be on tour, or are you dealing with playing professionals at all?
Yes, I've got a couple of guys who are on lower tours. I've been helping a guy out this year who's on the European tour, who's been doing quite well. And I've got a couple of lads who've made it into the England squad this year, been doing very, very well. One of those lads in particular, I've got quite a lot of high hopes for in the next couple of years, particularly if he can start to believe in his putting, because the rest of his game's unreal. I firmly believe that if he can start to find his putting, he could actually make a really good career for himself on the tour. I've been fortunate that I've been over to the States a couple of times this year. I helped one of the guys out who's played in a couple of nationwide events over there. And I've been helping a gentleman who's off a golf works called, he's named Michael Wharton Palmer. He's known as MGWP on there. He's an English guy. I've been helping him with his game for about a little over 12 months now. And Michael's a 5-time state champion of Arkansas. So he's obviously on my books. He's been doing great, but he's also been a big help to my career. He's very, very supportive. Also happens to be a neighbour of Jeff's, but he's just a great guy. And I've got a couple of young kids I teach who I think could outstanding. I've got a young lad called Reese. I think he's someone I think could be a real big thing. He's only 12 years of age. He's playing off 5 handicap here over in the UK. So that's probably about a 2 or a 3 over with you guys in the States. And that's not off forward junior tees. That's off full adult tees at a pretty tough golf course over here. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him get down to scratch by the age of 14 or 15. And I think he could end up having a pretty good career in the game. But
go ahead.
Sorry, Karen. No, after you.
Yeah. So who would you say has had the greatest influence to date on your teaching philosophies?
I'd first of all say the first thing that led me down the road of starting to research the golf swing symmetries was probably the Golf Swing book by David Ledbetter, the one that has the pictures of David Frost in it. Yeah. That was actually quite influential to me. And I'd read, before I actually bought Mr. Hogan's book, I'd read the book that Ledbetter had written about Mr. Hogan. So I had Mr. Hogan's book with Ledbetter's new ideas on Mr. Hogan's golf swing. And I have to say that probably the golf swing with David Frost in was the number one, because it had certain things. It was talking about levers, it was talking about pivot, it was talking about centrifugal, centripetal, talking about all these things that at the time were just words that didn't really mean a lot to me, but made me then want to delve further to find out the true answers in it. I didn't really like Ledbetter's take on Hogan's swing, so I bought the Hogan book myself. I then knew that everything I wanted to get in the golf swing was big muscle orientated and to be controlled by the pivot. just starting from the very early books. And it was from there I then started to try to find a lot of books that were in that same ilk, if you like, with things like George Knudsen, the famous The Inside Moves the Outside, any books that from people who said they knew of Mr. Hogan, John Schley, The Search for the Perfect Swing, and many, many more. So the books were the first thing. But as an individual, I'd probably have to say Jeff has definitely been the biggest individual who's helped me out. He's given me so much of his time over email. And rather than him kind of giving me the answers to everything, he already knew that, or sensed it, should I say, from a very early stage in our friendship, that I knew what I was talking about, but I just needed a few breadcrumbs to be led down the path to then search for the answers myself. And then, as I always am, because I probably don't think I'm right, I then ask for clarification, and he's then, yes, you're right, or no, you're wrong. But it was quite strange in the way that Jeff and I are on two different sides of the world, and I believe and was teaching already what Jeff fully believed everyone should be doing in the golf swing. And it then happened that we started to teach the same. Well, I was teaching pretty much the same thing, but mine was a very, very raw version of it. I had people taking the golf club low and left, using the body, holding leverage, etc., etc. But really, I had a few drills, like a right-hand alone drill that I was doing before I'd even ever spoken to Jeff. I was getting people to do these things. And I look back at some of my early teaching videos. The students aren't swinging it technically quite as good as they are now. They're in the same ballpark. They've got a lot of things in the golf swing that, as one of my friends said to me way back then, a lot of your students all seem to swing it quite similarly. They all seem to have this kind of look to their golf swing, and they did. And now it's that I now understand everything that's going on in it. In the past, back then, I just taught it and it worked, and then I started to figure it out a lot from there. And then obviously finding Jeff and him, me realizing that he was doing the same thing, that was quite a big influence.
I mean, I kind of see that a lot when I worked with Greg McHatton, and it's the same kind of thing. Like, it's a Socratic irony to it that you speak to him and he doesn't give you answers. Eventually you wind up answering it yourself.
Yes.
And through inquiry, you get answers. That's a great way to communicate. What would you say the single biggest problem is that you're encountering in your day-to-day teaching? Something that you would say that's quite uniform with perhaps beginners or something that walk into you for lessons. Can you think of anything?
Awful first move. I think that once you've gone past making people understand and communicating with them how they should actually come through the golf ball and impact. For me, after that, the biggest thing, without a shadow of a doubt, is people's misconception about the first move and the plane of the backswing. Because I find that I've had good players come to me who have no idea what they're actually doing through the golf ball. They think they're holding it off and they're taking it left and releasing it with a little no-hands draw. I would say that a lot of those guys have no idea what the swing plane is doing in the backswing and have no idea what a synchronized backswing is. I have so many people that have no idea about that, and particularly the first move. And what I've tended to find is that if they get that first move so badly wrong, which a lot do, they suck it in behind them or get it way too steep, the amount of compensations that they have to come on throughout the rest of the golf swing lead to pretty disastrous impact area, leading to chasing down the line, having to flip the wrist, cross the arms over, turn the knuckles down. All these other reasons are there just because of a poor backswing and a poor first move, or whether it's an over-the-top move coming down. It generally tends to, a lot of it, be led to backswing. And I have to say that in my own kind of understanding of the golf swing, I definitely got a firm grasp on backswing playing quite early on. So I suppose that's why I noted that very early with a lot of people. And it was only as I progressed as a teacher that I fully began to understand what was happening in the impact zone. That took me a lot longer to find that out in my own teaching, because there's less information in books about what is actually going on in a golf swing when the club's being released left. You don't tend to find much of it. It tends to have to be that you find a lot of these answers through other sources or through a lot of trial and error yourself. But the backswing is definitely, for me, I see so many people getting it way wrong. way wrong.
Right, and then you're building the swing on a series of compensations from that point on. Let me say,
Absolutely.
let me ask you between the what's the population and what's the density of golfers and golf courses in the UK as compared to the US? I mean, I'm in New York City, and it's real estate here is very expensive. We have, I think, 7 or 8 public golf courses in a really tight area. I'm wondering what it's like over there in terms of accessibility and population-wise. How many golfers are there? You've been to both places.
I would say that in America, there's definitely more serious golfers. In that way, I mean, there's more people who play the game and will take instruction. Even if they go and play public golf courses, they will want to get instruction, they'll want to get better, they will spend money on the equipment, etc., etc. Whereas here in the UK, we have public courses. We'll have a lot of people who will then turn up to those places who will never have ever had a golf lesson in their life. And they just get around in their own way, hundreds of those. Hundreds of people chopping it around the course with no idea what they're doing. Swinging it worse than bad. It's laughable. I where I'm at is a public course with a driving range, and the amount of bad, awful golf swings I see is unreal. People will be quite seasonal who will play the public courses. They'll play in the summer, and then the clubs will go away and they'll go watching football in the middle of winter and go cheering on their local team. But around me in terms of golf courses, there are a lot of golf courses. I mean, in Manchester where I am, I mean, if I was to say 10-mile radius from where I'm sat right now, we've got to be talking at least 70 golf courses in a 10-mile radius from where we are. So there's a lot of golf courses in close proximity. There's not many down in London, but around near me, there are a lot of golf courses. I mean, where I grew up at Sale Golf Club, within 3 miles, you could find loads of golf courses, and there was a lot of competition, local players coming out of them, and most of them would have had 500-600 male members. I mean, the population at some of the golf courses has been dwindling due to the economy and due to a lot of newer courses opening where it's a little bit cheaper. The courses maybe aren't quite so difficult. They flatter people's games, make them feel like they're actually better than they actually are. Makes them anywhere. That would be my assessment on the state of golf in Manchester anyway.
Okay, so you're planning on a trip here to the United States soon, I as per our conversation previously. Are you going to be offering any of your tutelage while you're down here, or is it, are you looking to do any instruction here stateside?
Yes, I'm going to do some instruction. I'm going to travel to Texas. I'm going to stay with Michael, and as per my last couple of trips there, I've done a bit of teaching. Taught a few guys. Michael Powell traveled to Arkansas, did a little bit of work with a couple of guys from the Arkansas University, and this time I'm due to also go to the Oven, the Nike facility, with Michael, because he actually tests and endorses the clubs for Nike Golf. He's an official tester of their equipment. So he's looking at perhaps me getting on board in the near future as being on their playing staff as a teaching professional, which would be fantastic. And I will also spend a couple of days with Jeff, visit with Jeff, catch up with him, and hopefully try and get a bit of work done towards his website. And I believe that Rob, who's been writing the book, might be flying in at the same time. So it'd be good to catch up with everybody. It'd be real good. If I got the opportunity to travel anywhere else to go and do some teaching, that would definitely be on the cards. One of the things I might do, just toying with it at the moment, is got a friend of mine called Alex. He's Hogan Farm on Golf Works. He lives in Michigan, and I haven't seen Alex for a little over 12 months now. So he's invited me to go and stay with him and maybe coach a few of his pals whilst I'm there. Probably go drinking a couple of bars and have a bit of relaxation time as well as doing some coaching. So I think that's what we'll probably end up doing.
That's great. That's great. And if somebody wanted to experience your tutelage, they could just, how would they go about it? Would they just email you? Do we have a location for you, or do you have a website? Where do we go to?
You could get me on my email address. Currently, I don't have a website. I'm hoping that Jeff will be getting the Slides Fixer one up and running soon, so that will be good. And if not, I'm going to look at developing my own if it doesn't end up taking off with Jeff's one. But obviously, that's the one I want to be involved with is Jeff's one because kind of associated with him anyway from doing golf schools in the past. But you can get hold of me at Dan Whittaker at btconnect.com.
Yeah, and we'll post a link on the blog with that information, with your contact information, as you want it to appear, in case there's somebody in Great Britain that would like to experience your tutelage, and any other additional information you'd like us to convey on your behalf.
That'd be great.
Oh.
That'd be fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, well, it's, we try to take care of our people the best we can. My goal with this series is to try to expose people, because over here we have these top lists of golf instructors that
Yes.
we find that it's more politically based than actually knowledge based. And there are guys like yourself that are out there that are actually doing their homework and parlaying some valuable information, as opposed to some kind of Band-Aid that's been regurgitated over years and years and reused, and with a different image on the different cover. We don't particularly like that type of instruction, and
yes,
we try to do is expose at Gotham Golf. We try to expose our readers to what's out there and who's out there and who you might not have otherwise heard of. In your case, you're in the United Kingdom, and when you invited me to look at your YouTube with one of your students, I said, wait a second, that's exactly the kind of stuff that we like to preach, and it's not mainstream instruction. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's not mainstream.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
But it's in depth, and it requires work on the part of the student and the instructor. There are no shortcuts. They're only.
Yeah.
It's only Jeff makes it clear. When I interviewed Slice Fixer, Jeff Jones, he said, he's not ready to waste time with somebody who doesn't really want to put in the effort, and the lack of effort on behalf of the student creates a lot of bad instructors. It makes for a lot of bad instruction down the line, because people, you have to put food on your table ultimately, and the client is the boss from a certain perspective. Not everybody has the luxury of turning people down, Go ahead, I'm sorry.
And they want the quick fix, because I've noticed that, we live in a world now where everything's so readily available. We don't tend to have to work for much anymore. Everything's at our fingertips. We can buy it over the internet, anything we want. So because it is such a readily available world out there now, that people think that everything should be that easy. So quick fixes become the norm for golf and other bits like that. It doesn't tend to be that it encourages the people that want to really work hard. They tend to be, fewer and far in between than they ever used to be, in my opinion anyway. And like you've said, it does breed instructors that are given a quick tip. I mean, we have 2 golf magazines over here in the UK. We have quite a few, but 2 really crap ones. And one's called Golf Monthly and another one's called Today's Golfer. And these are the only 2 that have these lists of instructors that they call their top 25 in the country or what have you. And they are all woeful. I've got one that doesn't live far away from me. He doesn't really teach any good players. All the county guys come to see me, which because you have a county, which is like the locality of where you live. So Greater Manchester's almost split into 2, where we've got Lancashire and Cheshire. Cheshire goes down the country and Lancashire goes a bit up the country, but it's a real big area. But I've got this guy who's involved or is in the area, and he's just such a bad instructor, and he's considered to be one of the best instructors, and it's just a joke, really, to be very honest with you. And I couldn't agree with more what you've been saying.
I've seen, there've been other people. People have written me, emailed me and asked me if I could compile a list of 50 instructors. I said, well, I can't. First of all, there's a lot of great instructors out there that I will never have the opportunity to meet, and just because you're working with a tour pro doesn't make you a good instructor. I mean, these guys are
No, it doesn't.
These guys are hitting the ball. They're compressing the ball before you got there. I think I heard Lynn Blake on one of his videos describe it as teaching a fish to swim. It's the guy that can take a bad golfer and show him how to play the game, or teach him what he's got to teach him and get him to enjoy the game.
Yes.
And score better. I mean, scoring better. I mean, A lot of people say they go out to the golf course and they don't care what they shoot, but I don't believe that. If you score well, you probably had an enjoyable round.
Yes. And the one thing I've noticed is that the best instructors are the ones who've produced a lot from being kids. Randy Smith, who I had the pleasure of meeting at the Byron Nelson earlier this year, has produced a lot of really good players right from the beginning. Justin Leonard, he taught him from day one. Hunter Mahan, who's obviously now with Sean Foley, started off with Randy Smith, and he's been a PGA Teacher of the Year on numerous occasions, and has been a big developer from youth upwards. So for me, that's the sign of a really good, top, great teacher, but with vast knowledge, as opposed to these guys, as you've correctly said, who are getting tour pros coming over to them, and then suddenly getting this great teacher mantra, but where they're getting it from. It's almost like it's a propaganda mission by people in golf magazines or in other areas of the media.
Yeah, that's a shame, because what it does is it hurts. It doesn't do, because, it doesn't really, it creates this list, and it's more about getting on that list and doing what you have to do to become, the notoriety and perhaps the financial windfall that comes with it. And I think it shortchanges the general public, the general golf population, because I've personally taken instruction from a lot of, some of these guys that are on these lists, and I walked away, my wallet was lighter, that's for sure. My instruction was not necessarily, my game was not necessarily any better. So, okay, is there anything else you'd like to add, Dan, while we have you here?
No, I'd just like to honestly say it's really been nice to chat with you, and I've actually really enjoyed your blog. I had a good look at it a couple of times. I think you got some great things on there. You've got some good instructors on there. I really like the bits that you did for Homer Kelly with Alex. I can't remember the guy's surname, but it was fantastic. That little series you did all the way up to his death there.
Alex Sloan.
That's it. There's some fantastic bits in that. I am not a golfing machine instructor. I've got very limited knowledge on it, only because the sayings, etc. I have been on a TGM one-day course, just because for me, they tend to be the group of guys that are it's seen as being the most passionate. They have to put in a lot of research. They have to be a certain type of guy to be a TGM instructor. And for me, they seem to get a bit of bad press. And for me, it should be the opposite way around. People should be taking that off them and saying, there's these guys out there who are inventive, who are looking at pioneering new ways of teaching the game, not necessarily trying to rewrite an old load of crap. They're actually trying to give good information and then come up with good teaching ideas and training aids. And all the good training aids that have been out over the last couple of years, a lot of them seem to have stemmed from TGM guys. And I think that you promoting quite a lot of them and having them on your site and what have you, I think it's absolutely fantastic. And I think, although I wouldn't personally want to become an authorized instructor, just because I'd kind of quite like to develop my own brand, if you like, I just think that they all should be applauded for being, absolutely outstanding in their research and the knowledge. And I feel very fortunate that you interviewed me, put me on the on the blog alongside so many other very, very good instructors. I've seen you've done interviews with Greg McHatton, with John Doherty, with obviously Jeff himself, with they'll come to me in a minute. The other names. I think you've done a great job with it. Yeah, I just think you've done a great job, and it's very nice of you to put me on here alongside them.
The thing about TGM, and it's what a lot of people miss, because people can get so caught up in the jargon and the verbiage and all that. But I think I made a post the other day on Golf RX, somebody who was interested in learning from a golfing machine type instructor, is that there's only 3 imperatives. It's a flat left wrist, straight plane line, and lag pressure. And how you get to those 3 positions. And if I took lessons from 100 TGM instructors, they'd all go, my golf, as long as those 3 things are met, and that's my perspective,
Yeah.
And if you watch Greg McHatton teach, if you watched Lynn Blake teach, you'd walk away with 2 different impressions. But yet they have doctorates. They learn directly from Homer. It's not. There's such a big realm of possibilities within the golfing machine. I think given all the permutations, there's 4 quadrillion ways to swing a golf club.
Yes.
Whatever you.
It seems to be that
Good.
It seems that the guys tend to go down their own preferred style, or you look at Greg McHatton. He's obviously very big on letting the hands turn around the corner around the left and maintaining the leverage and allowing the butt to swing left to square the face. He's massive on that, whereas some of the other TGM guys will coach a slightly different release. And it just seems that they once that they've got the level that they got to, the doctorate level, that they then develop their own style based on what they know, which is great.
Anyway, it's been a pleasure talking to you, Dan, and we look forward to more participation on your part, because we really enjoyed what you've done for us, and you've been able to help one of our readers there. And we look forward to hearing your other little piece, and we'll take care of this interview. And once again, it was great talking to you, Dan.
Me too. Thank you very much, Ralph, and I look forward to seeing the interview online and helping any of the readers and even yourself in the future.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks again.
Have a good one, Dan.
Thanks, Ralph.
So